what day it was or not. In the Hebrew calendar, and I'll just share this because I started getting into it. It was like, oh my goodness, this is fascinating. You guys know that it's based on a lunar cycle, right? So they have months that are as long as the month cycle. Well, if you do that, you're ending up with like 11 or 13 days short of a full solar cycle in your year. And the way they would make sure they always stayed on track in Jesus' day was they would have someone or a couple someones looking in the morning for the first crescent moon that they could see. And whenever they saw that crescent moon, that day became the first day of the month. And if it wasn't seen, you continued your previous month. And so the months were sometimes 30 days long, sometimes 29 days long. And this was really horrible for wedding planners and everybody else. Because you could never count on knowing a month in advance what day something was going to be on or how many days away it was, because it could shift by about a day. And this is why it's so hard to know within a day what something is, right? And so it gets even more interesting because you'll notice Jewish holidays kind of move through the calendar a little bit. You know, if you watch Hanukkah, sometimes it's really close to Christmas. Sometimes it's like 3 weeks before Christmas, and you're like, what's going on? Well, what happens, because there's only enough days in these lunar cycles to not fully do a solar one, the days each year start moving forward a little bit in the calendar time. At some point, and they have a mechanism for knowing when this is, there's enough extra days available to drop in a full leap month. They don't do a leap year like we do. They do a leap month. And there's a whole extra month. And then that moves your holidays back and keeps the holidays in the general time frame of the season that they're supposed to be. And so when you try to figure out the date of a Jewish holiday back in time, you have to know when they saw the crescent moons. You have to know when they added the extra months. And I just began to realize my head was going to explode. So I just stopped worrying about whether or not it was to the day. My engineer part of me had to be throttled. It took me 8 hours to finally get to the point where I realized I could not figure this out. So I just want to let you know, it's not for a lack of trying, but I learned a lot about how the Jewish calendar works and how things work. And if someone's dogmatic about saying they know something to the day, you might want to just go, tell me how, because I'd like to know what you know, because I don't know it. So anyway, I want us to go and look at 1 Corinthians chapter 15 today. Very good Easter chapter. So that's where we're going to start today. And let's just go through it. Now I would remind you, brothers and sisters, that was brethren, that was everybody in the church, right? You have to say that nowadays, don't you? Of the gospel I preached to you, which you received, in which you stand, and by which you are being saved, if you hold fast to the word I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. And that's the message I have today. Is it in vain that you believe? For I delivered to you as of first importance that what I also received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day in accordance to the Scriptures, and that he appeared